Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. We are live on a Thursday night in a very exciting time in the world. We have a new president, apparently, and we also have a rally in the silver stocks. Man, they were on fire yesterday. I think First Majestic had flames coming out of it. There were people rushing. And fortunately, one of my rare option wins. I put it on at the right time. So anyway, we have a show tonight digging into First Majestic and especially the short position on First Majestic. We've gotten a lot of reader comments. I guess they'd be viewer comments, but in either case, joining me on tonight's all-star panel, we have Rob Kientz of Gold Silver Pros. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Chris, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you there. And then we have Chris Marchese from Silver Seek. Chris, welcome on in. Back to the show. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Chris.
And then, of course, we have a well-known legend on the Arcadia Economics program. The man, the myth, the legend, as they say. Dave Kranzler. Hello, Dave. How are you tonight?
Doing okay. Thanks for having me on. This should be fun.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And of course, what kind of silvery host would I be if we did not take a quick look at the silver chart just to kick things off here? By the way, we are live tonight, which is nice. So start firing your questions in the window there, and we will take some of them. Here we see silver down a quarter. Let's call it 25.70-ish. And you know, after yesterday's rally, it's a little bit flat on the day. The stocks, after quite a rally yesterday, which was good time, and I'll log into my portfolio here. We'll take a look at the mining shares, but to tonight's topic, here we see First Majestic Silver trading $13.50. And down here, you can see percentage of shares floated, percent of float shorted, 23.9%, which is interesting, a bit higher than the last time I remember looking at that. So who would like, Dave, would you like to kick off? What do you think is going on here? Is that impacting the price? Any thoughts on why there's such a seemingly large short position on First Majestic?
It's First Majestic seems to always have a pretty large short interest in it. I don't know if I've ever seen it up at 24%. I mean, there's no way to really know for sure unless you can, talk to some of the entities have the largest short positions. But I mean, I'm sure there's some people making bearish bets against First Majestic for whatever reason. I mean, if you just look on the surface at some of its valuation metrics, it looks like it's overvalued. But I mean, you could say that about most of the stocks in the NYSE right now. I think, I don't know, from my perspective, I think it's kind of stupid to be short, have a big short in First Majestic, because especially when silver is rising, I mean, this stock can be explosive. We saw when this bull cycle kicked off at the end of 2015, First Majestic ran from like just over $2 up to as high as 19 pretty quickly. So, this is one of those ones where the shorts have the potential to really get burned on. I have to believe that there's some long short hedge funds that are using First Majestic as the short leg of a pairs trade. So maybe they're long, you fill in the blank, Hecla, Core Mining, whatever silver stock, large cap silver stock. And maybe they're long that, and maybe they're short First Majestic. I don't know. I would say anyone who's just outright short First Majestic it probably doesn't really know what they're doing in mining stocks.
So, Dave, you're saying that it would seemingly be not the smartest thing to short one of the largest silver producers while the Fed is hyperinflating the dollar simultaneously?
I mean, if you like throwing your money away, it's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
So just going on top of what Dave said, yeah, it's expensive by a typical DCF valuation, but it's always been like that. That's how it's always traded. It's had one of the highest betas to silver. But I think it's now at this point at almost 24%. I think it's several variables. The first is, so it's always had a high short position since I started tracking it in 2016, mid 2016. I think it was 14 or so percent then, and it never really got below that level. I don't check that often. I check about every 2 months, but anyway, I think it's, so they have the tax overhang when they acquired San Dimas, when they acquired Primero. So that could be something. I also think, how short the commercials are on silver. So it could be, this is another way of doing it, through the equity market. And, those are the biggest two things, the tax overhang and it being, a leverage play on silver, having, like I said, one of the highest betas. But what's interesting is, so the float, Eric Sprott has a certain amount and that doesn't move. Wheaton Precious Metals, they got 20 million shares during the silver and gold stream amendment. So the float isn't nearly what the total shares outstanding are. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So that makes it a little more vulnerable, I would say, to the shorts. However, if we get a short squeeze in this thing, we could see $20 real fast. So I wouldn't want to be shorted. I don't know what the shorts are thinking. Silver is actually held in very well relative to gold. Usually when gold falls, silver will fall more. It hasn't really been the case. With the GSRs trading 70 to 75, it's been pretty stable. And the chart looks stronger for silver.
Yeah, and Chris, you mentioned that if you actually discount the cash flows, that the current level, looks a little bit high. I think that's something a lot of people wonder. How do you, what's the framework to go about valuing, where obviously people are going to have different inputs and projections, but what's the basics of how someone could look at valuing that?
So it's basically like silver production times the silver price less the costs. Most people use all-in sustaining costs. It's a little bit more than that, but whatever. You come up with annual cash flows, and you discount that to the present, whatever you want to use. And especially in this low interest rate environment, you would use a lower discount rate. So that just makes it more out of whack. So basically, that's how you value any cash flowing asset. It's the present value of all the future cash flows discounted.
And Rob, any thoughts there? Especially you and I have talked before about how we saw First Majestic trading lower at times with $25, $26 silver than with $18 silver. So perhaps you could touch on what Chris said and tell us how to mix that all in there.
So I think a lot of mining stock analysts and investors look at different ways to finance or to value stocks. A lot of times they look at dollar per ounce in the ground. They look at discounted cash flow analysis. There's net asset value when you're discounting what they have in the ground, how quickly they're going to get it out. There are a lot of different measures. Although I found, honestly, a lot of times those don't hold. Net asset value is probably my favorite, but with the market overall being so undervalued right now, I believe a lot of the mining stocks are undervalued. And I think First Majestic, based on their potential, is undervalued for what we think the silver price could be in the ounces that they have on the ground, especially considering all the technological advancements they made at getting better percentage rates of the silver out of the rock that they're pulling out of the ground. I think Keith has done just about everything he can with this company to position it to lead the silver companies for the rebound. And I agree with Chris that the silver price has been stronger recently than gold. I think the chart has held up a lot better than gold. So, and what the chart tells me right now is we're positioned for another bull run in silver. It's not very bearish. And especially with gold, I think it was a day or two recovering past its 50-day moving average. I think both metals are positioned to continue to go up in 2021. So yeah, there's a lot of short position on First Majestic right now. I'm looking at market beat, and it looks like that short position has doubled in value. This time last year, it was about 217 million. Now the value is about 549 or so million of the short position on First Majestic.
Rob, I'm going to enable screen sharing for you if you would like to share your screen with anything there.
Sure. Let's go ahead and do that real quick.
I think Dave's going to find the answer while we're recording there. He looks like he's cracking the code.
So the cool thing about market beat is it gives you over time. So if you look at about a year ago, December 13th, 20 million shares at 217.84 million. Now we're at 43 million shares at 549. So the shorts have basically doubled down on this stock as we had silver go from about 18 to about $26, $27 an ounce. So I can't imagine the shorts really are too happy right now because you've seen about a 40% or so increase in the price of silver. But you haven't seen the subsequent increase in First Majestic when you consider leverage. So First Majestic's gone up about 35% in that time frame, but you haven't seen the leverage that First Majestic or any miner should get to that increase in the silver price. Because, you know, for every additional dollar that silver goes up above the cost of mine, that's pure profit on the mining book. So for me, I think First Majestic is it's undervalued right now. If silver continues up and it hits 30 and 32 and goes through those traditional resistance levels, I think the shorts are going to eat it on this stock, honestly. I understand why there's shorts there. First Majestic is one of the most liquid precious metal stocks if you want to play options or if you want to short it. So I get some of the motivation for people who feel like if you're using like a discounted cash flow analysis, it's currently undervalued. And I would agree with Chris on that. But I think the potential in the future is that the shorts get crushed because I don't think I see silver itself falling back down to the $22 support range. And I don't see First Majestic falling back under $10. I mean, it could happen. It's just very, very unlikely.
Dave, you think this is headed to a short squeeze?
That's impossible to know. I mean, if you're talking about an engineered short squeeze, I mean, I think you probably could engineer one, but it would mean that a lot of these long-term, the tightly held contingency, as Chris was pointing out, would probably need to all get together and have oh, look who's on there. Susquehanna owns 2.6%. Is that because
I actually asked someone about that from the shop. Could conceivably be a hedge. Who knows? But
yeah, no, that's true.
Probably
who knows what they've got going on the other side of that? You know, they may have a boatload of puts or something, or written a bunch of calls. Probably wrote a bunch of calls.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd have to have a conference call. You know, all the ones that tightly hold their shares and say, okay, on the same day, we're all going to call our brokerage custodian and demand that we want our shares back that are on loan. So, that's essentially how you would engineer a classic short squeeze. I was actually just working some numbers. I haven't looked at First Majestic in a long time, and I've followed this company since 2001, 2002, because it's just such a large company. For me, it's kind of boring to look at. I mean, it's a great large cap silver play, a great way to leverage a silver market. To me, it doesn't require a lot of fundamental analysis. I mean, if you own it and you have a poor position in it, yeah, you got to keep track of things like the potential tax liability and things like that. But you're talking about a company here that produces 15 million silver ounces right now, or that's what they're projecting for 2021, and over 20 million silver equivalent ounces. And just on that basis, the upside leverage they have for every dollar increase in the price of silver is enormous. So even though maybe using, the traditional valuation metrics, price to sales, price earnings, price cash flow, it may look like it's overvalued. run those same numbers and plug in $35 silver, and it looks cheap very quickly because of all the silver they produce. That's an enormous amount of stuff. I mean, it's not quite the largest primary silver producer in the world, but that's their goal, is to become the largest primary silver producer. So, I mean, and I was looking at their total resource, and this includes the inferred, and if I was actually doing evaluation analysis the way that I value this thing, I'd probably give them, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50% credit for the inferred resource.
Yeah, San Dimas alone, right?
Pardon me?
San Dimas alone, I mean,
right, exactly.
The conversion should be there, right?
Right. I would think so. But, let's just take the face value total resource, and it's 600 million ounces of silver equivalent. I mean, that's one of the largest silver resources in the world. And, with the potential upside explosiveness of the price of silver, I just don't see how someone, unless they've got some other strategy they're pairing it with, whether, it's maybe they short the stock and sell puts. I don't know. That actually probably be a pretty good strategy right now. I just think if you're outright short First Majestic, you really don't know what you're doing in this sector.
Although, Dave, well, let's not rule out people not knowing what they're doing in the sector too. Yet at the same time, it reminds me something I ran into quite a bit in my time back in the industry. Do you think there's some degree to which it's one of those things, well, we're short it blows up. Hopefully it's after its bonus time. Because I think that factors in. It's like we hear these. I remember I used to read about these massive derivative books that Deutsche Bank had. And, I was always thinking like there's some complex strategy going on. Later on, I find out they're just basically writing options and then railroading the price. So they screw all their customers by pinning them. So, I mean, it's like a lot of things that sound bizarre to normal people are quite bizarre. In fact, the bankers, it's often that like CIA, like little criminal, like gangster mindset. And is that a possibility that there's just someone? I mean, it's like how are some of these funds short so much silver? Doesn't really make sense either. But
they're not short physical silver; they're short paper silver, and that's obviously they're short it. And it's not funds that are short paper silver; it's the banks.
Well, then they pawn it off to the tech funds, though, which is what I've always found interesting. Where I mean, basically, the reason that the banks can manipulate, they need someone to buy and sell. And at least as I've come to understand, they've been eating these guys' lunch for the last 30 years, which is bizarre because, I don't know, when I was back on the floor, we would check the products each month. We'd be like, all right, we made money. And if there's, 9 stocks you're always winning in and one that you just get clobbered in consistently, at some point you'd say like, either there's a reason or maybe I can't figure out the reason, but I'm just going to stop. And
well, the managed money right now is net on a net basis of, I'm just looking at the futures because we're talking about the futures now, on a net long basis, that the funds are pretty net long right now. So, and you're right, there is the tech fund, the CTA fund aspect where they're just basically they're institutional momentum chasers. So, they get long when it's going up and they sell, and they get short when the price is going down, and they baseball their position back and forth with the banks. But I'm looking at the banks now, the swap dealers. I mean, they're net short quite a bit of silver. So, and who knows how much of the producer, merchant, processor, user commitment of traders position, who knows how much of that is actually bank positions. So
yeah, the banks know their customers' positions because they have their house account and their customer account.
Right.
This is similar.
And they run the COMEX.
Yeah, on the COMEX. So it's similar when I used to work for FXCM, a currency broker. They swore up and down they didn't trade against their customer position because everybody in Forex did it. But then they got busted years later for trading against their customer position. It's how they made their money. So,
JP Morgan denied spoofing the markets, and now in the settlement, and now find out they cheated. And also, I mean, as we've seen, it's not like this comes as a surprise, but when they lie and cover it up, then at least there's some probability that anything they say in the future, I don't know, maybe sometimes they tell the truth, but it's at least, worthy of question. Although anyway, I guess maybe the alternate hypothesis that I've wondered, I don't know that I have evidence, but I think it's at least fair to consider, if these banks can manipulate silver, and we know there's politics in the world and there's politics in banking, and fortunately Keith has the courage to stand up and be honest about what's going on, which I certainly appreciate. That's the one reason, main reason he was the one mining executive in the book that I did. So is he a target?
I think that has something to do with it, because if you wanted to make a statement about, hey, shut your mouth, what's a good way to do it? If you're a company CEO, well, you discourage the price of the stock. I don't know if that is occurring. It's impossible. We don't have the data to know that, but I mean, yeah, that would be one way to do it.
I don't know. I think Keith's kind of empty. They might view him as empty threats at this point. Remember when he said, "Oh, we're going to hold back silver, sell it at a higher price." They did that for all of 1 quarter. That didn't really come to fruition. I mean, I don't think that anyone or bank or anything would take notice of that. I mean, in the big scheme of things, First Majestic doesn't produce that much silver. It's 11, 12 million ounces this year, maybe 13 to 15 next year.
They're projecting 15 million silver and 20 million silver equivalent.
Yeah, and that could grow because they have La Pria, Del Toro, La Guitarra, or they just need to drill to find more resources, and I think it's there to increase production. But anyway, I don't think that's anything significant that anyone's worrying about. I don't think that's a target or anything. And just because I've seen First Majestic have such a high short interest over so many years now. It's been about 5. That's been over 15%. I just don't think that's the case.
I think, from having written for places like Seeking Alpha, which is mostly a generalist site, there are only a few precious metal stocks that sort of move the needle with people. First Majestic is one of those. It almost has a cult following at Seeking Alpha. And when I wrote about it before, if you write anything in which people could perceive as being negative, a lot of the guys there will jump on you because they're fans of the stock and they're very sort of sensitive to it. I think from that perspective, if you're following the silver market, you look at probably Pan American Silver and First Majestic probably first because of the popularity and the production. So if you did want to make a statement, First Majestic, maybe a stock in which you would want to target. But then my question is, why aren't you looking at some of the others as well?
Yeah, like MAG. I mean, that had a great, 2020.
Yeah, well,
Keith Neumeyer is the only large cap mining stock CEO who speaks out publicly against the manipulation activities in the precious metals sector.
That's what I was getting at.
And that's, I mean, I see Chris's point where, he may be targeted, especially by who knows, it could be half the short position could be the banks, and they're trying to keep the price down. Because if somehow First Majestic lags in a big move higher in the price in the sector, First Majestic would look bad.
That's exactly right. And going back to my Seeking Alpha point, Dave, the generalists take notice of First Majestic. So if you were running a suppression scheme and you wanted to keep generalists out of the silver stocks, doing exactly what you said on First Majestic could
suppress the price. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think a lot of the large cap mining CEOs don't say anything about the manipulation. I mean, they have to know what's going on, but they keep a low profile because governments have, they have tools in their toolkit that they can use to make life hell for some of these big companies, whether it's in environmental restrictions or or whatnot. I mean, it's so, I think a lot of them keep a low profile. And Keith has always been, I mean, since I've been involved in the sector starting in 2001, I mean, I don't know if he's still a huge, I know he contributes a lot of money to GATA. And, he used to, publicly be, one of GATA's biggest supporters. And I don't know if that's still the case, but, he's always been outspoken about it and has been willing to step up and tell the truth that other mining companies CEOs refuse to talk about.
It's almost not a waste, but kind of a waste, because the only way this is going to get resolved is through supply and demand finally winning out. It's, I mean, these ridiculous cases, JP Morgan, found guilty. We'll give you a little slap on the wrist, like BFD, right? I mean,
yeah, like spoofing's the problem.
Yeah.
Just a little spoof here. So Dave, you mentioned GATA. Quick note, GATA got part of one of the Arcadia Foundation's first donations just to making the world a little bit more silvery. They got, I hear our cubes actually came in. There's 27 of these babies.
Those are sold out?
They're sold out, but I got one, Yara got one, Silver Bill Murphy, Chris Powell, and Scott, the silver historian Craig, who laid that great story at Silverfest.
I want one.
Dave, well, maybe when I come back to Denver, we can roll dice and gamble on football together or something like that. Although one last thing about First Majestic here that I think I know is on a lot of people's minds is the tax issue. And as silver analysts, I'm wondering how you guys look at it. And perhaps one thing in particular, if anyone would like to comment on this, when I hear that some funds have a legal mandate or fund mandate that they can't buy it because there's a legal issue. I mean, I understand, maybe there's a different price, but whenever someone's legally prevented from doing something, that seems to me to be altering the equilibrium balance of any market. So anyway, Rob, do you want to take that one? Any thoughts on what people should think or how they should approach the Mexican issue?
Yeah, I wish I knew more information on that. I've tried to look at this and essentially I think what the Mexican government's trying to do is just get the fair share of taxes from their perspective. And it's kind of like what Indonesia did to Freeport-McMoRan in the Grasberg mine a couple of years ago. They said, you know what, we want to recover some more of the value from this in terms of why don't you train us how to do the mining and provide more jobs. Maybe that's what the Mexican government's trying to do, but they're trying to do it through taxes. Maybe they're just trying to recover more value. We've had a deflating economy last year. Maybe that's part of the motivation. But there are legal restrictions for big funds, especially to get into a stock that has an outstanding legal issue, and especially one that's probably a lower cap for them in a silver company. So it may just be, people are going to be hands off. The institutions will be hands off until that's settled. I don't know if that's why the legal issue exists, or more if it's just the Mexican government trying to, basically trying to recover its fair share. I kind of believe the latter, but yeah, I could see where that may put, less institutional upward pressure on the stock price, I guess, if they're not able to get into it.
Dave or Chris?
I mean, I haven't, because I don't spend a lot of time analyzing First Majestic's fundamentals. I mean, I buy and sell the stock more as kind of an intermediate trading play on where I think the market's headed, up or down on a shorter term basis. Has anyone quantified the tax issue?
Yeah, so here's what I know about it. Don't quote me. I might be off on a thing or two. So Wheaton Precious Metals initially acquired a silver stream from Gold Corp on the San Dimas mine. Gold Corp then sold San Dimas to Primero Mining. And at that point, they were all clear that they would be taxed at the transfer pricing price of silver, which was $4 an ounce. And then years later, it came up that no, the Mexican government wanted the transfer pricing at the spot price. So you got that price discrepancy between the spot and the ongoing purchase price.
What was the spot price at the time?
So I think it was I think Santa Moss was acquired in 2018 from Primero, or so First Majestic to Primero, Gold Corp, or Primero acquired it from Gold Corp in, I think, 2010, give or take a year. Anyway, that was supposed to be in good standing from what I understood. And so basically, when First Majestic acquired Primero, that was an ongoing issue. So that still has to be settled. But I hope and I think First Majestic will win out, because if you remember, because Mexico wants to have a good relationship with Canada. Canada puts a lot of investment money into Mexico. They benefit. It is government, so I don't know if it can be looked at logically, but so they had that thing with wheat and precious metals, the Canadian government, that should be taxed at spot price, not transfer pricing, and wheat and precious metals won out. So I think that First Majestic will come out on top. If they don't, that should be now. Didn't 6 years?
Didn't the lawsuit issue come about the same time silver was popping last year? Is that timing?
No,
right?
The lawsuit has been ongoing, or the dispute has been ongoing with Primero, which is gone. That was acquired by First Majestic and the Mexican government at the time.
Okay.
So I think it's been about 6 years in total, if I had to guess, 5-6 years. So if the taxes between $4 and, let's say, gold, silver's
17 or 18.
Yeah, something like. So the difference between that multiplied by the streaming production, which was very high when Wheaton had the stream with Primero, not as high with First Majestic. And I don't know how First Majestic is doing the taxes. I don't know if they're still taxing it or paying taxes on transfer pricing or spot price. So, I mean, I know that doesn't help a lot, but it kind of narrows down, the neighborhood of what it would be. And maybe that's why First Majestic is keeping a excessively large cash position, and why they did that financing with Sprott. I don't know.
Well, appreciate that, and some good things to think about with the tax issue. By the way, for everybody watching along at home, if you're having fun, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay posted when we do fun stuff like this again. Although we are going to continue on here, and technically this is still the Denver Dave, well, I guess we dropped Denver, but the Dave Silver and Gold Hour. So one of the themes and highlights that's become a staple on the show is getting Dave riled up. And of course, Dave, I did not disappoint the fans tonight. I have some titles. I love getting these. Our buddy Chris Powell sends them out, and I can just like picture like the fury as I expect, because here EU plans to limit US dollar reliance and boost the euro. So first we had China backing away from the dollar, then Russia, now Europe, but probably is nothing to see here. Just carry on. Or actually, Dave, no, fortunately I'll even answer this one for you if I may. We could just call them all currency manipulators. So as see, Janet Yellen was warning partners. Dave, do you have any thoughts on how the world is spitefully manipulating to screw Janet Yellen and the fine dollar? What do you think about that one?
It's funny because I think it was today actually, where she gave a speech and she said, we're going to deal with China's currency manipulation, blah, blah, blah. And yet, I mean, the U.S. is the biggest currency manipulator in the world, and it has been since like 1936 or 1934, whenever the Exchange Stabilization Fund was erected. So what I found interesting about that EU announcement was that you basically have another country that is supposed to be, you know, as opposed to China or Russia, supposed to be allies with the US and you know, partners in NATO. And they're out here saying, I mean, that headline basically says in so many words, we're diversifying out of the dollar. And they said, and if you read the article, they said they're doing it because they don't want to have exposure to when the US decides to, you know, wield around sanctions to try and achieve their political aims internationally. Right.
But
so,
Dave, now that we have a new administration, you know, I'm sure that's, you know, it's all gonna be solved soon, taken care of. Good plan in place.
Well, what I found interesting about what Yellen said was a couple days ago, she said the U.S., you know, under her being the head of the IRS and the Exchange Stabilization Fund and all that good stuff, that the U.S. was going to support a strong dollar policy. And now she's out here saying, well, we're going to use all the tools in our kit, you know, to punish China for manipulating their currency. Basically, she's saying she wants a stronger yuan and a weaker dollar is essentially what she's saying. Because the only way you're going to fight China from propping up or pushing its currency lower, or not propping up, but from pushing its currency lower for trade advantage is to push your own currency lower, right? I don't know what else you can do. You're not raising interest rates, and that's what you need to do to support a strong dollar policy. So, I mean, she's talking out of, as always, she's talking out of both sides of her mouth at once. And I don't even know if she realizes she's doing this. Honestly, I think she's borderline senile.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
she's definitely. I call her Dementia Jan, like Dementia Joe Biden. But you know what I thought you were going to say is bring up the asinine comment about the 50-year treasuries.
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, she wants 50-year treasuries. You got to pay 8-10% for any human to buy those, except, you know, the Fed will probably buy them, monetize them.
The Fed will just buy them.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, fortunately, we got you covered, because if you go near any central bankers, here's like garlic to the vampire. I know you have a nice hashtag got silver shirt.
Love my got silver shirt.
I got the coffee mug, which I enjoy. And I hear the yoga pants are quite sensational. By the way, folks, that's in the bottom underneath every video. So pick those up anytime you would like to. One note before we look at a couple silver stocks tonight, have some news. And I guess we brought it up earlier with the First Majestic short, but you mentioned, you know, a lot of it depends on the future price of silver. And it's like, if there was something to point to that, you know, you would see it going down. Yes, we know they can hammer paper on there, but I mean, it's like, I hear the numbers that Biden is planning on cranking out there. You're really gonna like shock and awe.
We won't be saying trillion pretty soon.
I heard Shinzo Abe is jealous. Which, you know, it's hard to do. So, and then along those lines, you know, we get the reports from Andy Schechtman each week. People are buying a lot of physical silver. In fact, this week, a little teaser for the show coming on Saturday, mentioned even over gold. Like, people just want silver. So seems hard to put the tree back into the acorn on that one, but who knows what Wall Street will have cooked up, and should be fun to watch. Although in terms of getting leverage on some of these assets, Rob, I think you're on deck here now, because we had a company that wanted to have us take a look at them and see what we think. And I know you've taken a look at Calinex here. So Rob, would you like to take it away and let folks know what they're looking at?
Yeah. Do you mind if I share screen, Chris?
Sure. I will stop my share and you take over.
All righty. We'll do that. So Calinex Mines is a stock I covered, I think, back on the 12th, and it's risen about 30%, a little over 30% in 7 days, almost up 30% today. They've had really good performance. A lot of it has to do with several factors. Most of it being their polymetallic mine, and every single one of the metals they're mining is in a bull market, at least the 4 top ones. They're mostly a copper zinc provider. And those are both in bull markets. I think copper's in a seven-year high. Zinc has done very well. And I did a presentation for O&M the other day, a town hall about polymetallic mines, volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits, which CLLXF has. And they provide a lot of the world's base metals, and the projections for both copper and zinc going forward are very, very bullish for 2021. So then you also have gold and silver in a bull market. And they're not heavily diluted. They've only got about 30 million shares outstanding. They have 3 geologists on staff that have basically won awards. So this is a company that knows what it's doing. It's finding more resource. It's in the 2 premier Flin Flon and Bathurst VMS districts in Canada, which have traditionally supplied a lot of base and precious metals in Canada. And they've got a 3rd one in Newfoundland as well. They just did a study here. Let's see if we can, well, I'm not going to be able to blow this up, but this is basically a new electromagnetic survey that they did where they're finding 1.46 grams per ton gold, 24 grams per ton silver on top of nearly 8% copper. I mean, these are ridiculous finds.
8% is big.
Yeah, ridiculous finds that they're finding at the rainbow. So they're premier mining district, great management, not heavily diluted, finding new resource, polymetallic. You've got that gold cliff coming in 2030 where proven probable available ounces in the world falls off a cliff. Silver's already fallen off a cliff. You've got a world that wants to reflate and build infrastructure. How are you going to do that? You're going to need zinc and copper, right? So all of these things, at least for 2021, are extremely bullish. So anybody that's got one of these polymetallic deposits that has these 4 metals in it is probably going to do well. But you add to the fact that CLLXF has really, really good management in 2 premier mining districts. And I think the market has taken notice of that.
That's basically describes almost every active mine in Mexico, right? Silver
Yes.
/ polymetallic.
That's right. Lots of gold, silver, lots of big gold, copper porphyries.
Yeah. Copper, zinc, lead, moly.
Yep, molybdenum.
Chris, any comments on that one?
That particular company?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know much about it, but
I don't either. I wish I did, though.
yeah, it seems interesting.
Although I'll pull the site back up, and I think actually would be interesting for folks that, I know there's a lot of people at home that are new to mining stocks. When you see a company like this, what are the first things that you go and look at? What do you guys evaluate?
So when I do it, I go look at the people. That's first and foremost. Then, I'll just go through, the corporate presentation, just get an idea what they're about. And then start, digging in from there.
Dave, anything particular that you check into first?
Hey, I check first to see if Jim Cramer likes the company, because if he doesn't like it, then I don't like it. No, I pretty much do what Chris mentioned. The first thing I do is I go and I look at the corporate presentation, which has the management team and directors, et cetera, usually at the beginning. Then I look to see, just assume going into this, I know what type of metal the company is either exploring or producing before I look at it. So then I look to see, where they're geographically located. And again, it kind of depends on if it's a junior exploration company or if it's an actual producing mining company. I mostly look at the exploration companies, so it's, the methodology is probably a little bit different. That's pretty much what I do. If they're a producing company, I look to see what their resources are, what their exploration upside is. If it's an exploration company trying to make a discovery or trying to advance a discovery, there's other things that I look at. So.
All right. And a few last notes I had here. We do have in terms of the insider ownership between Management, friends, family, and associates, north of 30%. There is no debt. Rob did talk about the management team that is pretty well regarded. So,
and I should say, I pay close attention to that. I want to see if management has skin in the game. 30%, a lot. That says a lot that management has 30% of the shares that they own. And then I also go through the news history of the company because I want to see, how the company was formed, how it was founded, and what their history has been up to the point at where they are at it, because that can actually tell you a lot.
Yeah, I look at that, and I specifically pay attention to share rollbacks because
Exactly, I do too.
I hate sloppy share structures, and just because someone has a tight share structure doesn't mean it's not sloppy. If you go back 5, 7, 10 years.
Right. A lot of these companies you're nicely calling them rollbacks. I like the way these companies call them share consolidations. They're reverse splits. That's what they are. Yeah. And with most of these, especially the junior companies that do them, with most of them, not all of them, they're hiding warts in the company's past where they've issued, hundreds of millions of shares and have, gone after projects that were complete dusters. So, and if that's the case, I want to know it. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to throw the company out and not consider it as an investment, but I need to know that history.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Righty. Well, I appreciate that. And we have a couple other news updates. Here is one from Silver Sands. Let's get that up on the screen. A few of you guys met Silver Sands, my friend Keith Anderson. They were at Silverfest last year. We will consent to the cookies. And you can see here, Silver Sands reports encouraging initial drill results at the Virginia project. Pleased to report results from 6 initial diamond drill holes representing 903 meters of the 2,831 meter phase 1 exploration program. And then you guys get to meet Keith Anderson and Silver Sands back at Silverfest.
I did not.
Although, is that the same Virginia property that was once owned by Mine Finders or then Pan American? I mean, do you know?
I assume that it was, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that is their Virginia project. So anyway, and we've had Keith on the show a couple of times, and we will have the link to their update below. Quote from Keith here: extremely pleased with the initial 2020 drill results from Virginia. Confirming the phase showing strike potential for additional silver mineralization in known veins and indication of new mineralization in minimally to untested peripheral veins. We're excited to get the next phase of fully funded 2021 exploration drilling underway to further expand the known mineralization. So that's one of the stocks that we've been following here. Proud sponsor to the show as well. And it's nice that they've been cranking and getting things back underway down in Argentina. So silver stock to be aware of, folks. And Rob, I know we have some news from you. There's apparently a conference coming up soon.
Yeah, we're going to be hosting our second virtual conference here in about a week. So I'll go ahead and share screen if you don't mind, Chris.
Alrighty.
We're going to be doing it on the Hopin platform. It is January 28th, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I believe you're going to be in one of the sessions with me. We're going to be talking about what happens. What do we do when the dollar dies? I think is the name of the session. It's going to be free for everybody to register, for the attendees to register. We're going to have Fernando Aguirre, survivor of the Argentinian currency crisis, leading off the conference. We'll be talking with the Silver Independent's Dr. Scott Craig. We'll be talking with Andy Scheckman, James Anderson at SD Bullion, Kieran Von Hest, who's very popular on my channel talking about Bitcoin, is going to come back and join us. Alex Newman from the New American. We're going to have the technical traders there, and Jerry Huang is going to be there from Gemini Capital. And lastly, we'll have.
How did you book Jerry? How did you get him on board?
He's really hard to book.
I know.
But it'd be great to have the conference. One of the smartest guys I've ever known, a CFO of 2 companies in the mining sector. Runs his own capital company now, just supremely talented and smart guy. Really glad to have him at the conference.
And can you give us the date again on that, Rob, and where they can find that?
Yeah, so we'll go back here real quick to the share screen if I can. It's going to be exactly 1 week from today, January 28th, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can sign up by going to hopin/events/solutions-2021. It's a free ticket for everybody to join. We're going to have a bunch of exhibits, as I said, and then we're going to have a little after party from 6 to 8 p.m. where we all get together and just chat about mining stocks, the mining sector. You can meet some of the presenters. I'll be there as well. So come join us. It's free for everybody to join. We had a lot of fun last August when we ran a conference. I think we'll have a lot of fun this time as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Dave, are we going to see you there?
I'm putting in my calendar now. It's a good possibility that I'll be able to watch the festivities.
Well, that always draws the crowd. By the way, everybody watching along at home, any questions for Denver Dave? I know this is a rare opportunity to interact with him via the computer anyway. Dave, did you get your vaccine yet? The Truth Monster asks.
Seriously? No, man. Even if I wanted to get one, I'd be, way back in the line.
Would you want to get one?
Not right now. I'd like to see a little bit of track record on how it works and what the side effects are.
Dave wants to see some drilling results on how that all goes.
Exactly.
Just hopping in there. Although, speaking of drilling results, we do have.
I know people are dying. There's people dying from getting the
I
vaccine,
saw
and they
that.
don't know why. And I would like to know why first.
It's not a vaccine. They're calling it a vaccine because under United States laws, a lot of international laws, if you call it a vaccine, you're exempt from lawsuits. But it is not a traditional, I mean, you can't get sued. You can kill people and there's nothing they can do about it. It is not a vaccine in traditional terms. It is not a dead version of the virus. It's an RNA messenger, and they're screwing around basically with creating the virus in your body to combat the virus. But RNA messengers can also rewrite, they can rewrite things.
So something they have no professional experience with. Is that
people who are getting the
pretty
jab
much government's plan, Chris?
Yeah, they're the guinea pigs, basically. You're the guinea pig for this RNA.
They're trying to play God with our bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get it. I don't want to be a lab rat.
We'll leave that aside for now and make sure that the free speech protectors aren't too proud of what we're sharing here on the show.
Did I say something wrong?
I know Dave gets excited about drill results, and my friend John Lee over at Silver Elephant was trying to get him on the show this week. But here we see that Silver Elephant has completed 940 millimeter drilling program at Pulicayo. We have some drill results down here below. And Rob, would you care to, for people again who are new at reading through some of these press releases, what would you take away from what you see here?
Let's see, grams per ton, silver 200, 200, 164, 132. Those are pretty good numbers. You've got a little bit of zinc mixed in there. The width is pretty good there as well. I mean, there's some encouraging signs there in those drill results. I'd like to see it drill a little bit more, drill it out a little bit more, but not bad at all.
Well, these are quite a bit below Pulicayo's current resource estimate, the grades at least. So I wonder if this is PACA, which I think they've kind of combined the two in terms of reporting. We'll see.
It says Pero is located at the southeastern extension of Pulicayo.
Oh, sorry, I was saying Para. So Pulicayo is an underground deposit.
Right.
PACA is an close nearby open pit. And the last few drill results that I've seen, they kind of integrate the two and don't differentiate them. Gotcha. So this, just by looking at the grades, this seems like it doesn't seem like typical Pulicayo grades, but I need to talk to John, obviously.
Is that it says an extension of Pulicayo? You think it's maybe a new area that they're drilling out?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I hope so. I hope they focus on those two assets, which are more advanced and developed, rather than the two new projects they acquired. I'm having a brain fart right now, so
Well, it's all right, Chris. You may be thinking about hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so that when John Lee is coming on the show. And that's one of the things I like about John, that he is very accessible. So if anyone does have questions about that, you can find John through the Silver Elephant website, or I know he is quite responsive on Twitter as well. And here you see he commences 2,300 meter maiden Sonowayo drilling program in Bolivia. So it is commenced, and good to see that they're underway. I know they are drilling a lot, and John's goal is to round up 300 million ounces in the ground. So we have an update here, and again, folks can find out more about that Silver Elephant. Any other comments on this one, gentlemen?
I think Bolivia is a little misunderstood. It's opened up a lot recently. If anyone's been paying attention to New Pacific Metals, they've made great headway with the government in terms of getting some land from Comibol. And I think, it's very mineral rich. This is going to be a place to focus on the next decade or two. And I don't think it's really gotten its day in the sun yet, but I think it will. Not specifically this company. I'm just talking about exploration and development in Bolivia.
Well, I appreciate that. I may still be going down we were supposed to go down there to see it in person. Got delayed with a couple things, but hopefully.
Get in shape. Altitudes.
That...
Get in shape. The altitude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will be ready if that does come to pass. And folks, we're going to round up for the evening here tonight. But thank you to our three brilliant guests here, Rob Kientz, Dave Kranzler, and Chris Marchese. And Dave, perhaps before we end, you could let folks know where they can find you and the great things that you offer there.
Well, I guess it's subjective as to whether they're great or not, but my website's Investment Research Dynamics, and there's links to the two newsletters that I write and publish. The latest mining stock journal just went out today, as a matter of fact. So there's a little bit of a silver emphasis in there. I review Arcana again, and have updates on several of the silver companies that I think are good investments and that I invest in myself.
Yeah, and Dave, you know how we've discussed, we've analyzed before in the show that if you're going to have this big monster truck that you drive around Golden, Colorado all the time on your way to the Coors factory. I didn't know why you were filling it with Fiat, and I told you I was going to have my people do something, and we got you covered. So you can update now your truck.
Send me that and I'll switch it out. I like that.
Get some silver. Although, Dave, you're not going to believe it, because I got this one from my team and your buddy Yara, and Yara that everyone met at Silverfest sent this over. Although the same exact day, in fact, I believe it was yesterday, we had some fan mail for you. Even your fans at home are making pictures of trucks for you to back up and put silver in. So anyway, we'll send those over.
Send me all of them. I'd like to have the option of using all of them or rotate them around.
That is investmentresearchdynamics.com. And Chris, who can be found at SilverSeek, can you share with them what did they get there?
Yeah, SilverSeek, GoldSeek, we put out the latest news releases for companies, provide company reports. Peter Spina and I, who founded Gold and SilverSeek, I think 17 years ago for SilverSeek, 25 for GoldSeek. We recently launched goldseeker.com. It's a premium newsletter. We have an actively managed look over my shoulder portfolio, those type of things. So, and at Twitter, I'm at CJMAUAG.
All
righty. And
I've been going to Gold Seek since 2001. It's been around for a long time.
I
Yeah.
go every day. Gold and Silver Seek are my first stop every morning, and that's a true story.
All right. And Rob, after you stop there, you load it up onto your site. Can you tell folks about goldsilverpros.com?
Yeah, we just redesigned the website. We started a subscription service, quarterly newsletter. We're about to have our annual mining stock update come out here on February 1st. And we also have Gold Silver Pros University. So if you're a beginning investor and want to learn how to risk manage your portfolio, we have about 40 videos and articles there for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll be looking forward to the conference. And of course, how could we end the video without giving away some silver? There is a 10-ounce silver bullet. Dave, you can click and sign up for that now.
You're giving away my silver bullet, Chris?
What's that?
Slaying
Giving away
vampires.
my silver bullet?
Well, it's there. Someone's going to win it. We gave away the Jesus Clears the Temple bar last month. So anyway, the link for that is in the description field below. And with that said, thank you all for being here tonight. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again soon. And
Let's
hope
definitely
everybody
do it again. Thanks for organizing this.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you. And again, thank you everyone who is at home watching. Hope you're all doing well, having a good night, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care, guys.